Once again, Onslaught is now, because we like to say that. And this week, I don't know, I think I'm going to want to start having a name for these. It's like maybe Wulfie Skype sessions. But last week we talked to Doro Pesh, and it was a really good conversation. This week, I'm speaking to an old school LA shock rocker you may remember by the name of Lizzy Borden, who gave him the axe frequently back in the 80s. How's it going, man?
Doing amazing, living here in Las Vegas, and it's pretty amazing out here. So yeah, all is good.
I am glad to hear that. And it's it's like I hate to. It's like I kind of came across last week. Talking with Doral that it's like 2020 is been a rough year. And it's like it's kind of maybe the wrong perspective. It's like I try to be positive, but it's definitely changed the landscape a bit. So how's it been treating you this year?
I think people who are songwriters, they work inside all the time anyway, and that's what I do. I have my recording studio here, so I would be here doing what I do anyway, no matter what. So where some people feel like they're locked up and they can't escape, it's a chosen profession for me. So it's not really, I know other people are suffering, but this is what I do. I mean, I'm in recording and writing songs every day, all day. And so it hasn't affected me to the extent that it affects most people, because just because of my job.
Yeah, it's like I can fully relate to that, because after 30 some odd years of my day job being in retail, I'm in a position now where I'm just like, it is what it is. I'm disabled, but I'm not out. It's like under different circumstances I would be like, what's the term there? I hate it when you get a word. There's a word, and it's like, but essential. And I would be out with customers.
Yeah. Most people would, and they need it. But I write alone, I record alone, so it's one of those things where it's out of all the things to happen, this is one thing that doesn't affect me all that much. But the nightlife, I like going out, especially on the Strip here in Vegas. It's really fun. We haven't been able to do that, but really it's a minute problem for me. Now, I don't want this to go on forever, and I'm hoping that they figure it out quickly. But I haven't been disrupted as much as other people.
That's good to hear. So speaking of what you have been working on, you have just released Best of Volume 2. What can you tell us about that? That's encompasses what, like maybe 3 albums? And I know there's a couple of covers.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was I had to embrace this streaming world because it's here to stay and there's nothing anyone can do about it. So I went on to one of the platforms to try to see what our biggest streaming record was. And it turns out it was Best of Volume 1. And I figured that makes sense, because even when I started streaming, if I don't know an artist, I usually go after their best of or their greatest hits, whatever collections out there of their best representative songs are. So that's kind of where I came up with the idea. We did the last 3 albums that were not on Best of Volume 1. So let's do a Best of Volume 2 supporting those 3 albums: Deal with the Devil, Appointment with Death, and My Midnight Things. Yep. So that's where we came up with the idea. And I just chose the 4 songs that represent those albums the most, whether we played them live and they had a response, or whether just people kept coming to me and loving the songs or whatever. So I picked the ones that got the most response from each 3 albums. And then we decided we wanted a little sugar on top, so we decided to record 2 cover songs. And the only cover songs I do are songs that affected me as a kid, or whatever. And so
Pet Sematary, I think, is the better of the 2 covers. But although I love the Blue Oyster Cult cover as well, it's just But it's like I found myself, it's like definitely drawn more to the Ramones, and it's
Yeah, it's one of those things where both songs catered to both sides. I mean, I'm hearing the exact opposite of what you said from other people too, saying the Blue Skull, Burning for You is the best one, and then I hear Pet Sematary is the best one. So it really kind of caters to a certain sensibility in different people. And I think
right.
that's the best thing, because if you just did two songs that everyone loved or everyone hated, it would be one dimensional. But both songs are relatively, it's Lizzy Borden's version of it, but at the same time, it's creating where people are liking one or the other more than the other, and it's pretty interesting to to see that response, because it's really, people have really taken aside. This one's better, but I like that one, or this one's better, but I like that one. So it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very likely. It's like I need to replace my copy of Volume One, but I'll definitely be jumping on Volume Two as well. Um, so kind of like what's future plans? Assuming I hate to bring up COVID all this, but if assuming things improve in 2021, what do you got coming up?
Well,
Possibly.
I'm recording a new album right now, and we're doing it a very unique way, because we have the time. I didn't want to release an album where I couldn't tour on it. For my Midnight Things, we were only able to do the U.S. tour. We only did one show in Germany, so we were not able to bring it anywhere else. We were supposed to go to South America. We were supposed to go all through Europe and the UK, but we ended up having to obviously cut it off, and it makes no sense to go back. So I'm going to work on a new show, and I'm in a new album, and then a full-on new show that hopefully, when this ends, we can jump on. So I have the time right now to make the record that I want to make, and
Yep.
we're doing it a unique way, because I have that time. We're doing one song at a time in its entirety. So I'm writing, recording, uh, piecing it all together, and then mixing, and then just getting it down to the 99% finished mark, and then moving on to the next song. And we're knee deep. We're just at the early stages. We're only on song 3, but it's coming out really amazing. I mean, doing it this way, you really, because even on every album that we do, by the time you get to the 8 or 9 or 10 song mark, uh, those kind of lose, because you're just so burned out from recording every day,
Right.
especially if it's a long process. So, certain things get overlooked, and this way I'm not overlooking anything. I'm able to do all the production ideas, all the vocal ideas, all the guitar ideas, every idea that I want to do. I'm totally focused, and by the time I'm done, I have nothing else to add to this song. And it's a great way of doing it if you have the time, and we do have the time.
Yes, indeed. So you mentioned the shows, and you're definitely legendary in regards to you definitely your inspirations definitely. I think we probably have the same inspirations when it comes to theatrical rock. With me, I think I discovered Alice Cooper a little later in life, more in my late teens. For me, Kiss, by the time I was 8 years old, they were the greatest thing in the world. So that is like one of the questions I had. Going back to your class, was there something you ever did on stage that I'm sure there's. How do I want to phrase this? I guess it's the question. Um, and if I ask this, it's almost going to be like getting a magician to reveal their. Maybe I shouldn't. I have this idea in my head. Is like, what's the craziest thing you've ever wanted to do on stage that you haven't had a chance to do yet? Or maybe someone's like, hey, maybe you should pack that away for another. I don't know. That's kind of the vein of thought I'm following here, but I don't think I can articulate it quite right at the moment. Weird.
Well, I mean, just the way you introduced it, it's a shock rock. I don't think it's possible to do what we were doing back then. The only people in front of me where there was about 5 people. There was the Tubes, there was Kiss, there was Alice Cooper, and there was Arthur Brown, and
Okay.
there was a select few people doing shock rock, and it was shocking. It was where we've been banned from areas, from cities. We've we've done all those things where the population thought we were a threat to their children. So I don't think that could happen anymore. I think maybe Marilyn Manson was the last one to get that kind of reaction, and we
Yep.
did, and it was pretty massive, to be able to be that kind of an outcast where they're terrified of your show. And we were using real props too, so it wasn't a bunch of fake things on stage. So it was pretty
Yeah.
dangerous. And so, to me, we did some stuff that we couldn't do now. I think people wouldn't see it in the right way, and it wouldn't be entertaining. For our audience, it was shocking, but it was also entertaining. Now, if we did some of that same stuff, I don't know how entertaining it would be, because people would take it the wrong way, and they wouldn't
Right.
see. There would be no sense of humor in it at all, and so it would go over everyone's head, I think.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because I saw somebody, I can't remember, I think it was Danielle Slimenstra Hyman. I had seen her comment on something having to do with dark humor, and it's not really appreciated these days. People do take it a little too close to heart, and it's just, I think it's a sign of the times, and it's a shame, because it's like, someone like me, because like anybody who's ever listened to the Metallic Onslaught, we're a bunch of goofs. We're idiots on the air. Not so much idiots in real life, but we just, it's an outlet for us, and we just get sometimes really just bizarre, and it's wonderful. And then it's, unfortunately, I think in this day and age, we're just seeing the same thing too, that it's not as appreciated as much.
Yeah, I mean, people get offended over every little thing now, and it's that used to be my go-to. I would love that. If I got people in the front row that were offended with what I was doing, I just egged it on and made it even worse, and that made my night. But now it's a different kind. It's like they're personally, and they're hurt by it or something, and it's very bizarre, because there's no humor. They don't get the joke, as much. Now, not
Right.
everybody, but just certain people, and the media, whatever, is doing it. But it's a whole different way of looking at entertainment. And I still do some shocking things on stage, but I'm not doing it to shock or blow your mind,
Right.
like I was maybe in the early days. I'm doing it more as entertainment and something to bring the song to life and bring the live theater to the stage in a way that most people aren't used to, really, because most people are just standing up there and singing and screaming and whatever they're doing. But I'm actually trying to bring a song to life, and using visual aids and stuff. So I get that more. They're in a movie, watching a movie or a Broadway play or something, or some theatrical production, rather
Right.
than I'm going to, you got to see this. It's going to, decimate your brain and curse your children. None of that stuff happens anymore, and I don't look at it that way. I only look at it as an entertainment tool.
Good deal. So, considering you're like, I mean, I've interviewed a pretty decent selection of artists in my time on the Onslaught. You're actually the first one I've interviewed who came up through the LA scene in the 80s. So I want to throw a year at you. I'm thinking like 1984 was pretty much a banner year for metal. What band were you looking forward most to sharing the stage with back around that time?
Well, it was weird because, there was no chance of playing with Kiss, and Alice Cooper at that time, I think he was retired.
Yeah, he was kind of on the line. He was like almost ready to make his comeback with like another year or so, I think.
Yeah. So he wasn't around, and so really, it was to me, it was that whole the early '80s in LA. It was still the remnants of the '70s. So
Right.
the rise of glam rock in the mid '80s was a takeoff from what was happening in the glitter rock scene in Hollywood in the late '70s. But it was still a mixture. All the clubs were mixed up with punk, with glitter rock from the '70s that was almost outdated at that point, and then the mixture of thrash metal was coming in, and but regular music that was inspired by Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, the more classic metal sound was on a big rise, and because of Van Halen, they put a fun vibe to it, and it wasn't so negative. It was more of a positive, fun thing. And so you
Yep.
mix Van Halen with the classic metal, and that's kind of what Hollywood was in that early '80s. People were there to have fun, and there was a thrash movement, there was a punk movement, there was even the remnants of the '70s, but this new little movement, and there was only a handful of bands, believe it or not. There was, us, on Metal Blade alone, it was just us, Armored Saint, and Bitch. But then you had the Great Whites and the Rats and all those bands on the rise too. And everybody was everyone had their own sound. Everyone was doing their own thing. And it was really interesting to see. And everyone was, we were playing with really heavy bands, and we were playing with really pop bands and even '70s type bands. So the mixture, the identity didn't get stamped until probably around, I don't know. I think everyone went to their corners around '85 or '87, I think. Everyone said, okay, I'm over here and I'm over here and I'm over here and I'm over here. And but
Right.
before that it was a mixed bag. I mean, you could go, we've been on the bill with Slayer a few times, and we certainly were nowhere near as heavy as they were. But it wasn't unusual for a heavy thrash satanic type band to play with a theatrical, rock band. It was very
I
normal.
where you guys would fit well together on stage, even though you're right. Slayer. I remember the first time a friend of mine passed me over a couple of albums. One of them was Venom's. It was like a 12-inch single. It had like right. That doesn't matter. I'm drawing a but Slayer, Show No Mercy, and I mean that album right there, it actually kind of scared me a little bit hearing it. And it's like, and it was it was like hearing Metallica for the first time, because I'd never heard anybody play that heavy, that fast, that all of that. And all of a sudden, here's Slayer, who's like fast, heavy, and evil, seemingly.
Well, it got to the point where they had to band together with the thrash bands because, the audiences there were the remnants of the punk movement that moved over to the thrash movement. And
Right.
so the audience was 99.9, it wasn't 100% male. And it was pretty vicious. And so and everyone and then the glam movement came in, and they took their side. And I just did what I do. My influences are from the '70s, but I really loved the new guitar sound that Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads created,
Yep.
and or at least made famous. And so I wanted to incorporate that, and that kind of extinguished the sound of the '70s a little bit and created its own new environment. And I wanted to add that to what we were doing, just because I didn't want to just be a '70s type band. I wanted to go into the future, not, but I did want to drag all those cool things from the '70s that, that I learned from watching every amazing band,
You know,
growing up.
you took your influences and developed your own style, and it showed for sure.
Yeah, that was the idea. That's still the idea, really. I mean, look at the two songs that I picked, both '70s songs, and we tried to make them. We didn't change them too drastically because they're both amazing songs. You play them today by the original artists and they're amazing still to this day. So I didn't want to change them too much, but because they were already perfect. But it was fun to do them.
No, they're both classics for sure. I mean, it's like Fire of Unknown Origin. I think that was like 81, 82. And I remember that just tearing up the charts. And then I remember Pet Sematary being on the soundtrack. And, it's like I always liked the Ramones. And I know you made a couple really good choices there. That's my take. I'm happy.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. We actually played Pet Sematary live a few times before the virus hit, and people loved it. But actually, we're playing to a different audience, so they had no idea that it wasn't a Lizzy Borden song. People were coming up, that new song you got is amazing, and I had to tell them, no, this is the Ramones, and they're like, really? So it's interesting. We're paying, the respect to these things, these songs and these artists, but at the same time, they never even heard those songs. They don't even know, a lot of people. And so we're opening up that thing. So hopefully people will go back and find the originals and love them as much as I do.
Good deal. So I think I'm pretty much reaching the conclusion here. So one more time, it's Best of Volume 2, available through Metal Blade, as I recall.
Yes.
Available now. And is it a download or is there a hard copy?
Right now, it's just digital because we just wanted to put it out this year. But the response has been pretty good. So I think next year they're going to do full vinyl, colored vinyl, and the whole thing. So I think they're going to talk about that in December and find out how the reaction's been to this to the Best of Volume 2. And if it is as good as it's looking, then they'll do a full scale marketing campaign for it. So, but we just wanted to get it out towards the end of this year, and it was done and ready to go. So why not?
Right on. So, thank you very much for talking with me here today, Lizzy. Tune in to the Metallic Onslaught. You can find us on Facebook, metalliconslaught.com. Check out my Randy MetalWulf page on YouTube, where you'll be able to hear this. And I think I got to cover some bases here. It's like I lost track of how many streaming stations we're on. But yeah, go to Metallic Onslaught on Facebook, and you can find out where to listen to us. And once again, thank you for your time, dude.
No problem, and hope to see you back out on the road again soon.
Yes, I kind of, I've not gotten to see you live yet, and I would like to change that. But
yeah, we did the last tour with Demons and Wizards, and it was amazing. It was one of the best tours we ever did. And we played PlayStation in New York, and it was really amazing show, really fun. And the whole tour actually was amazing. And it was just tragic that we had to cut the My Midnight Things tour, because it was probably one of the best shows, if not the best show we've ever done. And my new band is amazing on stage. So we were just kicking in. So hoping to continue that. And like I said, the next record that we're working on now will be out next year, I'm hoping. And it's so far, it's some of the best stuff I've ever done. I mean, I hope it continues. I know it will. But song wise and production wise, it's really powerful so far.
I am looking forward to it.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you ever so much.
No problem, man.
Talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Take care.